These are the KBS C Taper iron shafts. I've got them in the Pro Plus version, in the 110 and the 120. So they might not be exactly 110 or exactly 120 in terms of weight, but one is lighter, one is heavier. Normally what I would expect to find in a C taper is a lower launch, lower spin, but in my other test where I looked at all the 120 gram shafts, I might have seen something different, so you might want to go and watch that video. So I want to see whether that 110 shaft goes a bit higher than the 120, but generally speaking with the C taper shafts, they are a lower torque shaft, they have lower twist, so they don't spin around as much this way, and when you hit the ball off center, it will deflect the head on that off-center hit, and with a lower torque shaft we get less deflection, so we tend to maintain more ball speed on them. But if you go too heavy in a C taper, it can be much harder to work, it can be a bit harder to get through the ball. Again, have a look at them compared to my other shafts. So I'm going to kick things off with the 120 once I take the shaft out from my last video, which was the Tor V, subject to getting them out in the same order that I recorded in. So these are the Pro Plus version of these shafts, which is basically like the Tor issue dynamic gold shafts. They're maybe the best shafts in quality control, picked off the top and stuck on with a different label, but they tend to have better dispersion and less variance compared to the non-Pro Plus versions, but they do behave in the same sort of way because they're the same shaft. That felt very nice. So this feels quite similar to the Tor V. Maybe actually a little bit better, but different shafts can do different things for different golfers, and I kind of like see a lot of shaft testing as like a in theory kind of thing. Like if I give this shaft to 10 different golfers, probably 7 or 8 of them are going to get the same sort of trend as what I see here, but there'll be a couple that just don't. And it's normally where there's saturation points for speed, so if someone's like much slower than this shaft needs, then they might just get a completely different launch data, launch characteristic. If someone's way too fast for this shaft, they might just get something different to what we see generally in these sorts of tests across my channel and other channels. So do bear that in mind with all of these sorts of videos. That's why I do like to say in theory. That was bad. One more good one in the 120. Ah, when it's not, when the last shot actually finishes. Nice. Okay, a few shots there on the green. Didn't know where the camera was then. But we get this shaft out. Let's plug the 110 in. Now I remember a line of clubs which were the Mizuno MPH5. They had the C Taper Lite as their standard shaft. And I did have a set of them, 1 iron all the way down to pitch and wedge, and they were lovely. But I had them while I was in Australia, which is a very different climate. Oh, that felt faster. I've misstruck that because I didn't expect it to explode through the ball just in that sort of manner. I'll take it because it's near the pin. That's my best shot yet in the group. Okay, so instant change in feel. Yeah, that is quicker. Well, we'll see if it's quicker, but it feels delightfully easier. The club almost like escapes me a little bit, which is nice. Does that have an influence on the height? Does it have an influence on the spin? Yeah, that's very nice. You have to have a look at the dollar taper video, but in the dollar taper shaft, I had to really work for it. I had to work a little bit harder to get into the ball, so it did kind of change what sort of like came out because the shaft required a different delivery. And maybe there's like a little bit of familiarity with it because I had them all those years ago. Ooh. Oh, I just left them. Ah, no. Starting to change my swing. Stop it. On the green. Right. We love a bad shot that goes on the green. All right, swing with freedom. Just on that left-hand side. So sometimes with a heavier shaft, the extra weight is harder to get through, leave the face more open. Sometimes the lighter shaft is easier to get through, so it's slightly easier to shut the face down. Let's have a look. So is there any naughty shots to get out? You can go away. You can go away. Speed's all about the same. I've taken the 2 slower ones out, so they're like 5 miles an hour slower a piece. Top one, 30-30, just under 24. That one can get out. So they're the ones that look particularly bad. I've still got one long and left in the blue, is that one. The speed was about the same, the launch was about the same, that launch lower. So 16.0 average against 16.8. If I take this one shot out, 16.5, so it's still lower than the 120, but it's just subject to that shot there. I'm going to leave that one in. The spin changes marginally, it's still around that 6,200 mark. 48.7, 48.4, about the same. 185, 185. I'll leave that in. Just bear in mind that one shot that was maybe a little bit thin has done that. But peak height, 111 against 110. So I'm getting the same peak height in both. Angle of descent, 48.6, 48.4. With and without that one, 48.7. We're about the same angle of descent as well, even with that shot in there. Angle of descent does quite often correlate with the peak height. So if this comes higher, this comes steeper. If this comes lower, that comes shallower. That is a general trend that I'm seeing across all of these shaft tests. By comparison, got 184 against 185, largely the same. Direction-wise, the blue has maybe just spread out left a little bit more because of that one shot that just went further left. But they're about the same. Maybe that one shot coming out would make it slightly tighter, but there's a tiny directional difference. The red is just to the right on average, but not enough to really sing home about. I've got higher launch and lower spin in the 120, and I've got slightly lower launch, again that might just flick a little bit higher, with that little bit more spin on the 110, and same sort of finishing results. There's not a huge separation between those two. My delivery was 95.3 against 95.6, so I was only slightly faster on the 110, but it did feel a lot easier. I did get a better smash factor there. Path 1.9 against 0.9, so within a degree of each other. Angle of attack 6 down, about the same. That isn't as steep as I have had other shafts, so potentially the C Taper, in terms of how it bends and releases into the ball, potentially makes that flatten out just a little bit. So golfers that are too steep into the ball potentially get the edge of that, like say someone's like 10 down on the ball, they might just soften that 10 down with this shaft compared to others, because I have seen 7, 7.5 in other shafts. Interesting. But back to here, yep, difference in launch, difference in spin, higher, lower, same, basically. So if someone's accidentally got a set of like second-hand clubs with a 120 instead of a 110, don't stress too much, because they're not massively miles apart, they're there or thereabouts. If you're looking to get one of these to make benefit of that lower torque element of the shaft, then by all means go ahead. Like they're just a very good shaft for that. I generally find that they are quite stable, they're good on off-center hits. So if you see them in a stock set of clubs that you're buying, or if you're buying new clubs and you're looking to try these shafts in them, they're the sorts of things we can expect. But have you had a go with these shafts before? Have you had a set of clubs with them in? Do let me know in the comments, and I'll see you on the next video.